Jamie McLennan, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. Gear up for game day with Oilers Adidas jerseys with on-ice name and number sewing. Visit them today, Edmonton, at the corner of 128th Avenue and St. Albert Trail, or you can check them out online, peruse the store, browse proamsports.ca. And what did I tell you, everybody? You went down to Pro-Am yesterday, you got a new hat, you got a new jersey, you got a new look, and it's given the Oilers some fresh luck, I guess, moving forward in the series. Evening things at 2 last night. Game 5, of course, tomorrow night in Vancouver. But without any further ado, we welcome in Jamie McLennan this morning. Noodles, where are you at? What's the lowdown on you? Can you give us an update on your life as it stands at this very moment, 7:04 Wednesday morning?
Well, it was a late night because I worked Sports Center last night. So with the games out west, you obviously have to wait until everything's done, and then we do a bit of a hot zone and wait for the media to come in and the sound. And JT Miller was hard on himself and all of that. So you got to react to all of that, and then you tape. So you don't get out of the studio till 1:30, 2 o'clock type of thing, and
then you got to wind down too, right? Wind down afterwards.
Oh, exactly, because it was an exciting game, and I'm actually flying to Vancouver. I'm going to go to Game 5 tomorrow, so that should be fun. And honestly, I thought it was a great game. I thought the Oilers deserved to win, but sometimes when you outplay a team doesn't mean that you're going to win the game. And I guess for 59 minutes, it looked pretty good. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose because they allowed him back into the game. And then the big goal by Bouchard at the end. I can't imagine the electricity. It seemed like coming through the TV that the roof popped off of the building. So people that were in the building got to see something special. That was really cool last night.
Well, it's great talking to you guys because we talk to you once a week and so much can change. And I think in the regular season, that's one thing, but Stanley Cup playoffs is a different beast, as you know. And I mean, the goaltending in this series, obviously yesterday, the call that Knobloch made to go with Pickard turns out to be the right call. I just want to get your thoughts initially overall in this series on the goaltending and taking away nothing from Artur Shilov's on the other end, to which I think he's been keeping the Canucks in moments in games this series. But your thoughts on the whole goaltending circus thus far with Skinner exiting, the games he's played, Pickard's game last night, and the emergence of the young Artur Shilovs.
Well, okay, I'll just start quickly with Shilovs because I think he's given them an opportunity to stay in these games.
Yeah.
He's made a couple big saves. He's gotten some favorable bounces as well, where a couple times last night, the puck got caught underneath his right skate as opposed to maybe going through underneath the pad. But he made some big saves and he kept the score close. Shilovs has done exactly what they've asked him to do and more, because he's kind of come out of nowhere with 9 regular season games, and I think he's got, 6 playoff games now, maybe 7. So you're looking at a guy with 15, 16 games of NHL experience. And I know he played the World Championships and, he had some success there, but, it's a different animal playing in the second round of the playoffs. So he deserves full marks at 23 years old. The other side, I saw an interesting tweet. So I love analytics, but I'm also an eye test guy. So I played, so I rely on my instincts, and then I like to tie some analytics to it. Mike Kelly, who works for Sport Logic and works for the NHL Network, tweeted something out yesterday about goals saved above expectation of Stuart Skinner last season and this season. And it wasn't good. I mean, in this series alone, he's allowed way too many goals. There was negative in this series. He only had 2 games in the playoffs this year where he was a positive goal saved above expectation. So that's not good goaltending. The same thing last year. He only had 2 games in the first and the second round where he was positive. So you get a book on a guy who's got, we'll say, 20 games underneath his belt and going, oh, geez, you only got 4 good games or 4 games where it's a positive impact. You kind of know what you're going to expect from him. So you look at it, if all you're saying is if Pickard could give you league average, which is 903, if he can give you 903, the team looks pretty good. Because the other night when Skinner got pulled, the high danger chances was 24-10. They got goalied. Absolutely. Shots 45-18. So at some point, something's got to give. So you send a message not only to Stuart Skinner and say, we need more from you, but you also send a message to the team saying, we're going to put somebody else in there who's going to try and stop the puck. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. Now, that being said, I'm not just leaving it all at Stuart Skinner's skates, because their first period stunk last game. And those egregious turnovers and loose play, that was not good enough. That wasn't playoff hockey. The Oilers just put their gear on and thought they were going to show up on home ice and win. And Vancouver came to play. And then Edmonton woke up the second and third, and the goaltender stole it. So lots going on. But it's a gutsy move, but it was the right move to go to Pickard. At some point, if the Oilers make it through this series, they might have to go back to Skinner. But right now, you give Pickard an opportunity to roll with it a couple games, just like Vancouver gave their third-string goaltender an opportunity to run with it. And I saw something last night on the broadcast. I know I'm getting long-winded, but Aiden Hill took over for Laurent Brossoit. Now, that was an injury, but he still came in. And it was kind of game three's same type of situation, and took off and took Vegas to a cup. So you never know what's going to happen. But last night, instinct for Knobloch and really looking at the numbers, it was the right call. And also spreading out the lineup, breaking up McDavid and Draisaitl. You got everybody else more involved in the game, and it paid off.
Noodles, do you know where Morinville is?
Yes, I grew up in St. Albert. Right?
Okay, right. Morinville Steb is in on the Paris Jewelers inbox. Him and I are having a bit of a tiff here, okay? So I said I'd ask you to settle it right live on the air, so I want to hear it from your mouth. I was concerned with the middle part of that third period, say from the 17, 16-minute mark to about the 5-minute mark, when Vancouver clearly took control of that game. They dominated. They kept the puck in the Oilers zone for long stretches. That, to me anyways, even though they lost the game ultimately, I was saying earlier that gives Vancouver something to hold their hat on and say, hey, don't forget, we got right back in that game pretty quick. If it wasn't for that last-minute goal by Bouchard, they were right in the thick of things. Does that carry over, and is that a momentum builder for the Canucks, or is that something that, as Morinville Steb says, that's just playoff hockey, and good teams have to rise to those challenges when the pressure comes from Vancouver like it did last night?
Okay, I don't like being a neutral party, but I could make an argument for both sides. And here's what I'll say is, if I'm Vancouver on the plane last night, I'm assuming they flew home, gained the hour, and slept in their own beds. That's what I would assume. You're sitting there looking at your game and going, didn't have our best the first couple periods, but we did claw back into the game. So there are, I wouldn't say moral victories, but there are victories where it's like, okay, we know we can push back. And Rick Tocchet called out basically about 6 of their players last night and said, we got passengers, we need more. So I'm sitting there thinking on the plane going, you know what? Doesn't matter what happens. We feel like we're in every game. That being said, I think the Oilers rose to the occasion, and they've been a team that have been really reactive. So they get out to the lead, and then all of a sudden you're trying to defend the lead. You could tell, like Vancouver really pushed. There was the one shift, I think they were caught out there for about 2 minutes, trapped in their own zone, forcing everything at the outside. Just basically it was a garage sale. But the Oilers, what I liked about their resilience, because the storyline so far in the playoffs has been Vancouver's resilience coming from behind. They did it against Nashville. They did it against the Oilers in game 1. The Oilers were able to break that narrative last night. So that's something to hang on to as well. So I could see the argument on both sides. It just depends on individually. Like, again, I'm Vancouver. I'm on the plane last night. I know that I'm in the game, and I know I can push back at certain times. But what I liked about the Oilers, instead of just, dragging that puck around and waiting for overtime, they went on the offensive when they go, oh no, here we go. We're tied and we're going to head into overtime. And I thought Evander Kane did a great job on that forecheck. That's a different, because if he just circles away on that play, they exit the zone and we're in overtime. Instead, he goes, you know what? I'm going to get a lick on Hronek here, and I'm going to disrupt Zadorov with the puck. Like, he did a good job. So I could see that the Oilers, regardless of them being back on their heels, they found a way to be resilient in a pretty tough situation where that building, I would imagine, you could hear a pin drop after that second goal.
Well, and Noodles, that second goal, as you mentioned, kind of a deflator. And I think Pickard mentioned on the broadcast post-game complimenting Kane, and the guys going out to win it after that, like getting the hit, but then going back and no, we don't want to sleepwalk into overtime or anything like that and have the intensity kind of ratchet up. They go up there, they win the game. Jamie McLennan, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us this morning, 7:13 Nielsen Show, Lieutenant Eric Jason Milne with you. I want to get your thoughts too, Noodles, on a couple other knob adjustments, I guess, last night from head coach Chris Knobloch. Of course, the goaltending call was the one we talked about during the day. The splitting up of McDavid and Draisaitl, we all kind of agreed on yesterday as well, heading through, that it's probably something they should do. That came to work. Holloway up in the second line. You mentioned Kane. I also want to get your thoughts on the blue line as well, with Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci getting a bit of a split up and some time away. Your thoughts on that as well, because I think everybody can talk about goaltending and Skinner, and we like to talk about depth and scoring. But a lot of the hardcores, I guess you can say, in this market have been banging on the door about the blue line for a long time coming. But your thoughts on the Nurse-Ceci partnership getting a bit separated, and if it's something we can expect moving forward, and maybe, just maybe, this would be a recipe to kind of kick on after last night's game.
It was the right play. I mean, both of those guys are getting caved in analytically and eye test. It just, and not everything. It'd be easy to go, you know what, it's their fault. But again, it's not their fault. Warren Foegele decides to make a soft pass through the middle and it jams everybody up. And they happen to be on the ice chasing it. So, yes, they have to own a lot of it, but so do the players in front of them. I like that you broke that pairing up. Now, is it a recipe for the rest of the playoffs? And the reason being is at least those guys have carried heavy minutes. Desharnais, higher up, sometimes I worry that he might get exposed, stuff like that. But I think it's a game-by-game situation, and it was the right call last night. Also giving Holloway a little peek up top there, or I would say closer to the top. He's a good skater. He's got skill. He can be physical. I think getting those guys more involved, because I was really critical. I didn't think Holloway, I still think McLeod has more. He's been very shy, which disappoints me, because to me, you're playing for keeps. And, 2 games ago, there was drive-bys by McLeod where he'd have an opportunity to hit somebody, and it's just, hey, I'm going to go in there on it felt like it was a Tuesday in November. I'm going to go dig the puck away instead of playing for keeps. So you get them more engaged. I thought there were some great adjustments, but yes, that pairing deserved to be broken up. I don't know how long it lasts, because at some point you are, Ceci is a heavier guy who has experience. Desharnais still getting experience on the job. But that being said, it was the right move. Every button last night that Knobloch pushed, the goaltender change, separating McDavid and Draisaitl, and then he loaded him up a few times at critical times, but then also giving other players an opportunity to play. Everything worked for them last night.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in stone. The option's there. You can go back to it whenever you want, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other. But, Jason?
Well, this is always the conversation, especially at playoffs, matchups, changes, lineups, as we've been discussing for the last 3-4 games. But, game 1, 5-4, game 2, 4-3, game 3, 4-3, last night, 3-2. This is a tightly contested series. Do you see any, more dramatic changes? I think from the Oilers' perspective, they kind of found the keys to the code there with breaking up their centers and pushing that further down the lineup, and like you said, elevating a guy like Holloway. From the Canucks' perspective, now that this series is evened up, obviously they're getting Soucy back from suspension, so that's going to help. But do you see anything changing, or are both teams kind of just going to keep going down this path, because it's been working not too badly up till this point?
Well, I would say for Edmonton, the things that change is just you get guys that contribute and play with a little bit more confidence. I'd like to see more from Foegele. I'd like to see more from McLeod. Guys that had good seasons, but you need more from them in the playoffs. And I think that just comes with having a good night and continue to gain confidence. On Vancouver's side, I guess if I'm an Edmonton fan, what concerns me is a guy like Pettersson really hasn't entered, right? Yeah. Here's a 100-point guy. You can call him a superstar or a budding superstar, and he hasn't really been a massive factor. Besser's been there. JT Miller last night wore the loss and said, hey, that's all on me. So he's going to have a response. I think Lindholm's been worth the price of admission. He's been a really good player for them. So, Dakota Joshua is a handful. He's tough to handle. He factored in on both of those goals last night. Now, he got credit for the second goal. It goes off his left skate. But the first goal, he's in front while Garland shoots that puck. So I think concerning-wise, or where Rick Tocchet calls his team out and says, we got too many passengers. So on home ice, with the last change and been called out by your coach, Edmonton can't just roll into Vancouver and say, hey, we won last game, we're going to win this one. I would think, if anything, this is going to be their toughest game. And they've got to prepare for that, because Vancouver's been called out and their coach is a pretty hardened coach, and he's going to make sure that he's going to be pressing every button. So there is going to be those adjustments. And now that you're down to a best of 3, you're playing for keeps.
Yeah.
So there's no messing around and not hurting feelings and all of that. It's about who's playing is going to get the ice time on both sides.
Yeah, Noodles, I think this series right now shaping up as a lot of us thought, tight scoring, 2-2, best of 3, as you said. And I mean, you're swapping must-win games each and every night now between the two, but that's what we like. We kept it Canada. We kept it in this series. It's what the people wanted. We thank you for your time, Noodles. We appreciate it. You're doing a bang-up job, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
There you have it. Jamie McLennan, TSN, local guy, knows where Morinville is. Recapping last night's Oilers 3-2 victory over the Vancouver Canucks. We appreciate his time, as always. Brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. You can gear up for game day. That's tomorrow again with Oilers Adidas jerseys, on ice name and number sewing. Check them out today, corner of 128th Avenue, St. Albert Trail, or visit them online this morning. Comfort of your own home, proamsports.ca.